Hello and welcome to Off the Beaten Track. Thanks for joining me here. Today I'd like to talk about strength. I'd like to talk about how strength has played a role in my life and what strength means to me. And I'd love to hear what strength means to you. So strength comes in different forms. There is physical strength, the ability to move heavy objects from here to there, or to have a lot of endurance, to be able to maintain physical activity for an extended amount of time, building muscle. There's emotional strength, again, the ability to endure, to be stoic, I would like to say, stoicism, which is how I understand stoicism, is to have control over your emotions, to remain present, to refer to your inner strength and rely on that instead of being reactive, is how I think of emotional strength. There's mental strength. That may have to do with mental strength, enduring what's coming at you, and having the mental control again to go back to your values, to go back to what you know to be right, to not let the sense of insecurity react for you, and that is when you're blaming other people. I think almost always, if someone is blaming another person, that comes from an insecurity that they don't have control. I'm not a big fan of blame in general, because I believe that each one of us needs to take responsibility for ourselves and for our outcomes, and for the outcomes sometimes of the people around us. Sometimes we need to intervene and speak out when something isn't right. And on this November 6th day, an interesting day today, the elections have revealed themselves, and I heard an interesting story about the Amish in Pennsylvania coming out and voting. And they did so to speak out for themselves, for for what they felt were injustices done against them and their neighbors. And they, this kind of subdued population who likes to keep to themselves, they came out and they spoke out and said what they wanted, and that needs to be respected. As far as I'm concerned, that needs to be respected. So strength. I think that developing our physical strength is a great gateway to understanding how we have strength in all the other areas of our lives. And it's how it's played a role in my life is, as a child, I was blessed with a strong body, all functioning parts, limbs and fingers and things like that. Maybe I come from a line of physically strong people, I imagine, because I was immediately in touch with my own physical strength and enjoyed very much to develop it as a child. I could do over 100 sit-ups. I could climb a rope. I could hang from a bar for a long, long time, and I loved it. I've heard people speak before, people I admire, that say that when people say they don't like physical exercise, that they're out of touch with reality. That as children, we all enjoy physical activity. I mean, you see children running around. If they're lucky enough to have access to outdoors, usually, um, and 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 they love challenging their bodies physically. This is something I heard. What is her name? I wrote it down. Oh, Zuzka. She has a great channel, Zuzka Light. Zuzka Light. I want to do a shout out to her. She's this fantastically strong, physically strong woman who does reels for daily movement. And she talks about how we naturally actually do love to exercise, but we just tell ourselves over and over as we get older, usually, that, well, some people might say to themselves, I don't like exercise. And they just keep repeating that and eventually convince themselves they don't like exercise and just kind of embody that reality. But, exercise brings so much joy. It brings so much joy to me. It brings so much joy to the people I work out with in the gym. And these people are in all shapes and sizes. But getting in touch with your physical strength and, kind of pushing to see like, well, just how strong are you? And I guarantee that many of you are so much stronger than you realize. Even if you're limited in what you can do, like, I don't know, you might be limited in your arm movement, your shoulder movement, or your hip movement. Even with that, you're probably a lot stronger than you realize. And it's kind of a gateway to learn like, oh, and am I a little more emotionally strong than I thought I was? Am I a little more mentally strong than I thought I was? How far can you push it? How contained can you be? How in touch can you be with your inner strength? I'd say a fantastic example of this would be someone like Simone Biles. Holy moly, that young woman. There is a documentary on her called Simone Rising. I highly recommend it. But she obviously physically is amazingly strong. And then the 2020 Olympics came around. If any of you recall this, she had what's known, I think it was called the spinnies or the something like that. She was at the Olympic Games, and I believe it was in Japan, and she, did her vault routine. She didn't do her typical Simone Biles vault routine. She did it like halfway. She got off the vault and she was calmly walked off of there and calmly said to her coach, like, I'm out, because she couldn't figure out her body in space. And if you know anything about Simone Biles, what made her so amazing is her ability to connect her mind and her body, and it was lost. And take note, it was in 2020. So on a side note, we remember what was happening in 2020, and we remember that people were almost, you were very limited on where you could go, how you could move around, unless you had received a specific injection. And it just so happens that that's the year where all of a sudden Simone Biles, the best that ever was, wasn't able to connect her brain and her body. It was neurological, but they say it was this condition that many gymnasts sometimes have. But she endured, she walked off that stage because she was protecting herself from being harmed. She could die if she landed on her head, landed on her neck, and she was like, I'm out. And then she endured all the criticism that came at her. People said she was a coward. People said she let down her team. I mean, this is somebody who had won multiple gold medals before, who that gymnastics had changed forever because of Simone Biles. And they tore her apart for protecting her body. And then she comes back, age 27. There hadn't been a gymnast at that age since, like, I think the 70s. All the gymnasts had been like in teenagers, so she was considered old as a gymnast, and she tore it up. She came back full strength. She took care of herself. She took care of her mental well-being. She endured, who knows, millions of criticisms for letting people down, and she came back. But I'd love to know what you think of that testimony to strength. I think it's just the best story. So it's called Simone Rising. Thanks for watching.